Scott Marty, you've found Blurry Photos, a podcast of the unexplained and the unexplored.
Wait, Doc. Are you telling me you built a podcast out of mysteries?
The way I see it, if you're going to talk about the unknown on a podcast, why not do it with some style?
This is heavy.
Oh my God, they found me. I don't know how, but they found me.
Who?
They're reptilians! Run for it, Flora!
Let's see if you cryptids can do 90.
Don't bang your mom, Marty. Don't do it.
I'd like to point out you called me both Marty and Flora in that. So you really were playing a senile old scientist.
Yeah, I don't know. Man, I travel everywhere in time and space.
Hey, everybody. This is Blurry Photos.
Yeah. Your highest production company. Woo!
We hired Steven Spielberg for that intro.
I'm David Doc Brown Stecco.
And I'm David, going through puberty, Flora.
Oh, man. Well, we've once again fluxed our capacitors with mysteries and tales of the unexplained.
Hey, Dave. Nice life preserver. Dork thinks he's going to drown.
This podcast, you might not be ready for it yet, but your kids are going to love it.
Your kids are going to
Oh, man. Yeah, that's all we're going to do. Let's just read the script. That's this week's podcast.
1.21 cryptids.
Yeah, we this week, if you hadn't figured it out, this week we're doing an entire podcast about the Libyans.
No. That's just a case of shiny pinball parts.
That's right.
Yeah, nope. This week we're actually doing time slips.
That's right. Tiny little tears in time that people tumble through on accident. It's almost like a Hollow Earth story, but in chronological order.
This comes directly to us from a listener.
Yep.
There's a listener request. Peyton Bob.
That's right. You say do it, then we do it. That's how it works.
Yep.
We're like little puppets on a string. Sexy, sexy puppets.
Thanks
bye.
for... oh,
God. Isn't that the NSYNC puppet one?
I guess so.
I'm not ashamed of it.
You should be. Thanks for sending this in, Bob.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. One of those subjects that we had on the list. We would have gotten to it, but you just sort of
you lit a fire under our asses, Bob, and we responded accordingly.
We responded by removing our pants. Wait.
Oh.
So for this episode, we're going to talk about what a time slip is.
Yep.
We're going to talk about, how often they happen, what happens during a time slip, and some possible explanations for them.
Yeah, and there's more to this than I had anticipated.
Yeah. There is, although this is another subject where you really kind of have to dig through the garbage of the internet.
Yep.
To find that ring that some schmo has thrown out. Either down the garbage disposal or dropped it down the toilet.
Yep, the engagement ring,
yeah.
The classic. All right, good call. All right, you brought it back.
This is a lot of fun. You have to really sort it out because there was an old British show called Time Slips.
Yep,
that's gotten its stench on most things on the internet.
How many times are we going to get by the BBC? Because you ever notice it's just British shows that are messing with us.
So far, yes. That's absolutely true.
Now, one thing that I enjoyed the sifting because this also has a really good, kind of like our EVP, where we should almost classify the quality of these tales.
Yeah.
There is like an A, B, and C level, and I enjoy like the G level stories, like the ones that you're like, honestly, how bored are you that you decided that that somehow you fell through time instead of just taking a nap?
A lot of the information that is out there, it repeats itself.
Yep.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I found that. And keep in mind, now, time slips, hugely theoretical.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, when we're talking paranormal here, which we love to get in that hot tub and just, fart all over the place. Oh, yeah, soak. we're already living in that world and everything. But this one has very few solid leads on if these things are real or what causes them.
I think I can throw down a little bit in this league. I have a minor in physics.
Oh, nice.
I read a lot of books about physics. I can discuss that, I think.
Yeah.
I think we can knock that ball around.
I discussing it, I think you can do so ad nauseum.
Right. And and there is a weird almost belief system in it. Like people this is that part where people believe in science the way people believe in religion. Like they haven't read the Bible and they haven't read a textbook, but they believe in one or the other.
And with this, you also have to go along with that thing where you kind of got to trust what they're saying, what they're telling you, because unless you've experienced it yourself, you're only going on what somebody has relayed to you from their experience. Yeah,
and the tales, the stories of accounts of time slips, they read like ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
They're like ghost stories that are supposed to include that somehow incorporate this temporal phenomenon that is supposed to spontaneously occur sometimes.
Yeah. Speaking of that, this one lives kind of in the same world as the EVP, where you do kind of have to take the people's word for it.
Yep.
And unless they're just big old foolers, then they tell you what they've experienced, and then you go from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's get into it and see what we think here.
Yeah.
So time slips, also called time shifts, time warps, dimensional anomalies.
Timey-wimey, slippy-slidey.
Yeah, they're supposed phenomena wherein a person or a group of people suddenly find themselves in the past or the future, or see a scene play out before them of the past or the future. And this phenomena is a form of physical time travel, though how it happens, like we said, total mystery.
Yeah, and the transition from the present to the alternate timeline, the past or the future, it's sort of unknown, which is why I kind of brought up the Hollow Earth. It has that same thing. Like, well, I knew where I was, and then I was somewhere I didn't recognize.
Yeah,
there's never like a bolt of lightning or a moment of break.
Yeah,
you just
never like a window that you actually physically step through, or anything like a doorway or gate.
And I did see, I was actually intrigued by this because I started, when I did my research, I started going through time slips and stories about that, about people finding themselves in other places. And I was reminded, and I was surprised it didn't come up initially. I had to kind of then track it down separately. Those stories about time slips in the Bermuda Triangle, aircraft being in the air for an hour out of, Florida, but being way further ahead than they should have been, even based on their fuel consumption and things like that. Those sort of time leaps that happen. And I didn't find that when I was just looking for time slips. I had to look within the realm of the Bermuda Triangle mythology and stories. But the thing that I found interesting is that a lot of these time slip stories, as well as a lot of the Bermuda Triangle stories, include a dense gray fog.
Interesting.
I found that was present, and I'd say at least 75% of the accounts that I read.
I read one that had that as well, although I just found one story that had that.
I think everyone at this point knows I do the more thorough research.
You do.
So yeah,
and
literally no one thinks that.
Really,
everyone knows
what
you're
I was
the brains
trying
of
to
this
say.
Operation.
What I was trying to say is all your stuff is bullshit.
Yep, all the things that I've just made up as I speak agree with me.
It's interesting that you bring that up too, because I have noted that it's not to be confused totally with missing time,
right?
Which is that phenomenon that you lose an hour. Like you look down at the clock, it's 9:00. And then maybe you're driving along for like 5 minutes, and you look down, and it's 2 a.m.
Right.
That's sort of a thing that's connected more with UFOs or close encounters. Although missing time could be related to or caused by time slips.
Yeah, and I think another hallmark of that is that the time slips always return you home. You make it back to your own time. I guess one could say that that lost time is just a one-way time slip.
Yeah.
You're propelled 7 hours into the future.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of like squares and rectangles at this point.
Yeah.
Time slips are generally reported to last only a short time, from moments to several minutes, although there is a famous case of two British couples on holiday in France that experienced a time slip that lasted almost a day. And we'll get to this story because it's one of the more famous ones.
Yeah, I would go so far as to call it the famous one.
Yeah. When the time slips happen, when these events happen, some people report just watching them, just being witnesses or observing the scene played out. Some people report actually interacting or participating in them.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part with these, I think, that some people can actually speak to whoever's there in front of them. They can touch and feel and do everything that they normally would do as if they were in that time.
Yeah.
In that scene or whatever's happening. And likewise, the location of a time slip usually remains the same area that you're already in, just at a different time. But sometimes the location that the event shows are nowhere near the area that it happens in.
So there's actually like a physical as well as a temporal relocation.
Yeah, that's now a couple of the stories that I read. Yeah, that was the case.
No, I didn't run across any of those. All the ones that I had were always just same place, different time.
Yeah, and usually the most common ones, that's what you're going to find. But apparently there are some that can transport you through space as well as time. Weird. Some people report, and this is another kind of like, take this with a grain of salt too, but some people report uneasiness or feelings akin to depression or maybe even a sense of unnatural cold when the experience starts. It varies wildly, I think, from story to story. Like some people they don't notice anything. And then some people are like, oh, do you feel cold? Yeah. What's that knight doing riding towards us?
Dinosaurs!
So let's get into some examples of these so you get a better sense of what we're talking about.
Yeah, let's break it down.
I'm going to start out with this one we just mentioned. It's called the Simpson-Gisby case.
Yep.
And it was made popular by the 1979 ITV United Kingdom show Strange But True. And I think this is probably why this is the most famous, at least at the top, of the famous stories out there of time slips. This show, I think, helped it a lot. And you can find this episode on the YouTubies.
So this is just like a British Unsolved Mysteries.
Right.
All right. Minus Robert Stack, so how good could it be?
His name was Nigel Stackthorne.
Oh, damn it. See, I went shooting my mouth off without all the facts.
All you had to do was say Mordor, man. So these two English couples are on holiday. They're on their way to Spain via France. They stop at this little rural countryside hotel. It's kind of like an antiquated bed and breakfast type place. And they go in and they don't speak a lot of French, but they speak enough to get their rooms and have a meal and everything. And they put their stuff down in their rooms, and they notice the rooms are real basic, nothing fancy at all, even down to the cloth and the texture of the bedding was a little different from what they were used to. And
the way down to the Napoleon that was eating in the kitchen.
And then they checked the windows because it was getting colder in the night, and they found that the windows didn't have any glass in them. They were just shutters that were open. They had to draw the shutters close. So they thought that was weird, but whatever. It's rural France. What do you expect? This is in 1979, by the way.
No one expects anything from rural France.
So then they go down and they have their dinner, and the dinner was great. Apparently, the knives and the forks and their utensils and things, they all seemed weird to them, at least outdated somehow or another, or just they hadn't seen utensils like that before, basically. But they didn't mind, and they didn't speak enough French to ask about it really. So they just went on, with it.
Mon Dieu, quelle est la date aujourd'hui? Quelle est la date?
The fork looks different from what we. You know what? Just forget about it. Bring me le fromage. Le fromage.
1788. 1788.
I don't know anything about salted cattle.
I just used all of my French to say what is the date, and then I think it was then 1780 something. Yeah, I said some French.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. And I played the part of the confused Englishman.
And scene.
So they get up in the morning. They have breakfast. They notice two policemen walk in, and the policemen are wearing some strange uniforms. Nothing like they've seen from, I guess, French cops. But again, they didn't think much of it. They were just excited to get to Spain. They went up to ask what the bill was, and apparently it was just 18 francs for the lot of them, for both couples.
Some blag.
Yeah, and that surprised them a lot because, you spend the night, have dinner and breakfast and everything, and for just 18 francs. But again, they were like, well, who are we to question this? And we can't because we don't speak French. So
come on, Belinda. The place didn't even have windows. Of course it's cheap.
But they enjoyed themselves, and they took some pictures outside with each other and the place in the background and everything, and then they took off and went on to Spain and had a jolly old time.
Day 3 of our vacation, we stayed in a French hole, took pictures out front, sent postcards to Mum. Love, Nigel. P.S. No glass in the windows. Cheeky bastards.
So on the way back, they said, well, you know what? We enjoyed that quite a bit. Plus, it was cheap. So they were going to find this little bed and breakfast and stay there again. Well, they apparently drove back to the area that they had found it in and continued driving around up and down these roads and sort of over the rural countryside. Could not find this place at all. So they gave up, and they went home. And then a little while later, they got their film developed, and they noticed that all the pictures that they had taken at this hotel were blank. They did not develop, and that was true for both couples who apparently discovered this separately and then phoned each other on the telly and discussed it. And then they started doing a little research about the dress at the time, the clothing and style, and found that policemen wore those uniforms that they saw around the turn of the century, 1900. And so they are convinced that somehow they had a time slip that allowed them to stay at this place overnight from 1900, even though the year was 1979.
So now that's interesting, like on a number of levels.
Yeah.
And, like I keep keying in on the photographs.
Okay.
That the photos didn't work.
That they didn't develop.
Yeah, that they didn't develop. No, but I would like to know, like, did they not develop in that those photos were maybe the negatives were not exposed at all? Maybe just like as though they were advanced through the camera without ever seeing light, or were they overexposed?
Yeah, and they tried to clear that up by saying, well, the rest of the photos turned out fine.
Yeah.
We knew what we were doing. It wasn't like we just had a lapse of how to take pictures. But yeah, even the photos and the negatives were blank when they came out.
I mean, and it is one of the things where you have to take their word for it, but why not? This is a boring podcast if we don't, so let's do it.
The other thing people key in on is the modern money that was apparently accepted.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this comes up in other stories from what I read, where there is an exchange of money, or there is, some type of thing like that, where it's taken without question, and the person who is from the more modern times, they aren't questioned or looked at oddly by whoever's in the past. It's almost as if when they show up, they're somehow dressed the same way, their money is the same currency.
So the people inhabiting this pocket, for lack of a better word, see the people who have entered it as peers, as normal for their era.
That's a theory, but that may not have anything to do with it. If this were more along the lines of like a ghost situation, then it probably wouldn't matter at all to the ghosts or the spirits or the scene that's played out. This is where your mind just starts going, wait a minute.
Well, and that's and that's a thing that I've been kind of grappling with since I started reading these stories, is that there's so much of this that is I mean, there are almost two different ways you can explain the same thing. There's the time slip theory, and then there's what we already have covered in like 2 different podcasts now, the ghost theory, where the ghosts are just, the spirit of the energy of that place is reliving the same event over and over, and people just wander through it, and they'll either interact with it or they won't, which is also true for these stories, for these time slip stories. And when they are interactive, they don't seem to recognize the person they're interacting with as being outside of what they're experiencing.
Right.
So I almost feel like these kind of are ghost stories. Like, and you could say the same thing, that like a ghost that's inhabiting a building is experiencing a time slip where it's getting projected into the future.
Could be. Sure.
I think that you, if you really wanted to, could make a case that we're almost talking like the same issue, but from 2 different angles.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess eye of the beholder kind of thing.
Right.
But the thing that trips me up about, because we're talking about residual haunting, basically. I'll just go on and throw that out there instead of waiting for it. It's the residual haunting where that scene keeps getting played out, but to me, something like that, it's not going to have that tactile sensation.
Yeah, there is a huge amount of interaction that none of the ghost stories ever have.
Yeah. And in up to and including, I mean, eating food, sleeping in the beds.
Yeah.
Touching stuff.
Here's a good question. Did those English vacationers poop?
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they dropped a royal deuce.
A real Clockenshire screamer. Which is what we called it back when I was in middle school.
A Shropshire shakebrick.
The old Shropshire dropsy. That's British poops. That's what we're doing tonight.
A liver poop.
Oh, wow. Doesn't count. Does not count.
A Dover rover. All right. Because this could go on for a while. I'm going to squash it right now.
Yeah, and you're right. There's that huge amount of interactivity with it that does make it very unique. A lot of the stories that I read that are not honestly interesting enough to really go into individually have these elements of, we went to a place and we saw a house on a hill or a building, and then we left, and when we came back, there was nothing there. And I mean nothing that anything was ever there, but maybe like a old, long since filled in foundation or something.
Right.
And those are always like really ghost story-ish more than to me than time slip.
Yeah.
But there are some better time slip examples. I've got one for you.
Go for it.
Now, the famous psychologist Carl Jung.
Ooh.
Yeah. A man of science and not of phalluses. Has had an experience himself. So Carl Jung was traveling through Italy in the 1930s, and he, like any good tourist, went to go see a Roman tomb for an empress in Ravenna. And he was just blown away with the beauty of these mosaics. And they were, kind of like maritime, boats and whatnot.
They were on the walls of the tomb.
Yeah. And they as he described it, they had this eerily pale blue light, and he was just entranced by them and just stared at them. And when he left, he even tried to find the gift shop. He wanted some pictures, like some postcards of these things. Couldn't find anything. So later, a friend of his was also traveling to the same place, and he said, "Hey, will you do me a favor? I'm still hooked on those mosaics. Will you grab me some postcards? They didn't have any when I was there." And to be honest, it really pissed me off, and I'm fucking mad about it. No, he didn't say that. Carl Jung never said that. So this friend goes, tries to get these postcards, and comes back and was like, "Hey, Carl, you're a psychologist, and you're crazy, dog." Because it turns out the mosaics that he had seen and described were completely different from those mosaics that are actually there. However, thunder sound. They did exist exactly as he described them 700 years ago, but they had been destroyed in a fire. Whoa. Now, Jung was positive that he had somehow, his consciousness had traveled back in time, and he was seeing it as it appeared 1,400 years ago.
I'm glad that's the only conclusion he could draw from that.
Well, he's a man of science, so he is got his brain travels through time. But it is a hell of a thing that he was able to describe something without any knowledge. He's a psychologist. He's not an archaeologist.
Yeah.
He just thought they were really cool looking. I think I like this story because despite the fact that he ended up being very famous in his field, he had a very honest reaction. He's like, "Oh, I saw this thing and I really liked it, and I tried to get a postcard and I couldn't." He didn't run out of there acting like anything was unusual, and it took some time for the fact that something had happened to actually come to light.
That's true.
Which I think lends that story a ton of credence.
What a strange thing, though, for just the mosaics to be different.
Right. Now, the mosaics were the things he noticed.
True.
And it's very possible that the rest of it was also different, but those portions had been largely unchanged. Because you remember, he's going through a Roman mausoleum. Everything's going to look foreign and old.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about the tombs being extra clean or anything like that. Like they were just built like 100 years ago or something.
Yeah, no, he just thought that they were just really amazing. So I like that story. I think that's a really credible account.
Cool. I got another one here.
All right.
This is another one of those famous cases. Now this one you'll find out there pretty easily. It's well documented, and that's all I'll say about that. It's called the Moberly Jourdain incident.
Now I like that it's called an incident. That implies that someone got killed.
Yeah, but they didn't.
It's like a massacre that nothing happened.
Some credibility might have, but...
Oh, all right. I like where this is going. I detect the slight flavor of snark.
Yeah, there were two women. One was named Charlotte Ann Moberly, and the other was Eleanor Jourdain, and they were English ladies.
The year is 1901.
The year's 1901.
Horseless carriages are starting to appear all over the land.
They take this trip to Versailles in France. They're pretty well brought up.
So we've got some English people going on a vacation to France. Now our listeners have fallen through the time slip.
These two ladies, they're no jack fools.
No, these are like super educated school marms.
Yeah, like one's a daughter of a bishop.
Yep.
Like,
no scullery maids here. No. Right, proper ladies they were.
That's right. No battle axes here.
Spit and polish, everything prim and proper. Out for a bit of a wander. To France.
So they go to the palace at Versailles, and they're checking it out, and they decide to go to this little chateau that's on the grounds, check it out. When they get there, they find out this chateau was closed down. So they decide, well, that's too bad. Let's go back to our party that we were with and call it a day. They tried to get back, and all of a sudden they found they were lost. Well, they look around, trying to figure out where they need to go.
Yep.
They come across some roads, some paths, some lanes. They find a lane to go down, and they start walking down it. And they see this little old farmhouse. Plow was out front. Didn't look normal to them.
Well, and it didn't look like anything at all to one of them, because only one of them actually saw that farmhouse.
Oh, that's right. So Jourdain noticed this cottage.
And I apologize for the repeated pinging of my heater. There's just nothing to be done for it. It's just chiming every 6 seconds now. You're welcome.
How English of it.
Yeah.
Just think of it as Big Ben. So at that point, they claimed that there was this dreariness that came over them, this feeling of foreboding,
an oppressive,
something weird. They started feeling. So they keep going, and they both see this man in a cloak and a large shady hat. They describe him as being just ugly as he's a bucket full of warts and then some.
Yeah, his face is all jacked up from smallpox.
Got a dark complexion,
and he tries to hide it with a rather festive chapeau that they describe, Flora,
as a large sombrero. Large French sombrero.
A sombrero, which is it's just with EAUX at the end. That's how you make a sombrero French.
No, I go to the chateau in my sombrero. So he tells them how to get back to where they need to go. So then they cross the bridge. They get into the gardens that are in front of the palace.
And who should they spy in that garden sketching her little heart out?
Moberly noticed this lady sketching on the grass and said that she was in an old-timey dress. Now, this was old-fashioned to 1901.
Mm-hmm. So it's functionally like a leopard pelt.
She had lots of hair. Thought she was a tourist at first, but then decided, nope, it's Marie Antoinette.
Yep.
Nobody else.
The famous Marie Antoinette. I like these stories. It's like when everyone claims that they have royalty.
Right.
Like, you know,
right. Like in a past life, they were.
I just have no belief that, like, oh yeah, I stepped onto these gardens just in time to kick Napoleon in the balls and then laugh.
But the weird thing is, Jourdain didn't see this lady.
Yeah, there was only Moberly saw her.
Just like before, when Jourdain had seen the cottage, but Moberly didn't see the cottage.
So if we were like gonna like NYPD CSI this is the part where we say, well, their stories don't match up.
and we'll have a pun in there too.
Right. And then we take our glasses off, and then the Who get to play, and yeah,
we got to do a pun first before we earn that.
Yeah, that's true. I think we're up to the challenge.
I got it.
I think that we're gonna have time to do that. Yeah. Oh no! Wait! We have to start it all over again. I think we'll have time to slip that in. Yeah!
When this woman told me she saw Marie Antoinette, I thought she'd lost her head. Yeah!
Oh God! Why aren't we writing for the CSI, NYPD, NCISs of the world? Oh man, free puns for you. All right, so one lady of our lost place, they see Marie Antoinette. They identify her from a portrait once they get back to Versailles.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's the woman that was sketching.
And again, I love, like, remember, this is the Moberly Jourdain incident. And with every incident, there's an aftermath.
What's that aftermath that they go through, Stecco? Or that we are subjected to?
Well, in order to create the most hysteria, they mention the incident to no one.
Okay.
Yeah, they tell nobody. Because at that point, she's like, oh, do you think this place is haunted? Because we definitely saw something that no one else did. And again, this is kind of where the genteel, educated ladies come out, because they both talk to each other and they realize that they both saw some things that no one else did. And I give them points for this. They each write out their accounts separately, which is why you have these differences. Mm-hmm. They decide not to just spill all the beans. Like, you write what you saw, I'll write what I saw, and let's see how batshit crazy we turn out to be. Mm-hmm. And that's why you get these differences in their stories about who saw what. Now, they after they read each other's accounts and found that there was a lot of consistencies, they decided to go back, and they were never able to. And this is the hands down calling card of a time slip. They were never able to recreate their path or find that place again.
Yep. Now, I have heard that somebody around there was doing kind of like cosplay or doing sort of a reenactment at the time, and they said, well, that's probably what they stumbled upon, that just people doing reenactment. I mean, that sounds dumb to me as well, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, and then they go so far as to say they believe that the man that they saw, they recognized him as being a friend of Marie Antoinette, the Comte de Vaudreuil.
And he was supposed to be famously jacked up in the face.
Yep. Really, really known as...
You know, the ugly guy.
Yep.
With the sombrero.
He probably was just a perfectly normal-looking guy, But everyone hated that sombrero so much that whenever they described him, like in history books, they're like, "Oh yeah, he was so ugly. He had a boil on his eyeball and
ravaged by smallpox."
Oh yeah,
he had to wear a huge brimmed hat.
Oh yeah, and every time he talked, he would talk about how his genitals didn't work. I remember that really clearly.
Looks like this is someone who couldn't think outside the box.
Yeah. Man, that's.
Did you let me have that one, or did you? Or did I earn that?
You heard that.
All right.
All I could think of is while I was screaming "yeah" into the microphone, how unpleasant that's going to be for our listeners. And I'm sorry.
I'll try to do the best I can.
Yeah, we'll try
post,
to
but
mute that out a little bit.
Whoa, before
But they did finally find an old map of the grounds that did show like the gardens, the bridge that they crossed. Everything that seemed to really line up with their story. They decided to publish their findings in a book in 1911, but they used fake names, pseudonyms, so no one would know that they were crazy. And everyone, it was a big deal. Critics didn't think it was real. Even the Society for Psychical Research, and yeah, that's what it was called, did a review of the book, and they were like, "No, these bitches cray, dog." They think they're seeing things.
Let's talk about some more psychical stuff.
Yeah. The identity of the ladies who published this wasn't even made public knowledge until 1931. And then, I don't know, then they claimed to have had many other paranormal experiences before and after.
What do you think?
Man, no, I'm not buying it at all.
I mean, to me, it smells like old French fromage.
Yep.
This is
the stinky fromage.
This is where we change Merde to Merlin.
Yeah, this is. I agree. And man, this is like Biddy Quest. This is just like two ladies, like when moms get together for margarita night and just all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
This is what happens. Like they went on a vacation and then
I'm surprised a Ouija board doesn't come up in here somewhere.
Right. These guys, they were having fun and then they got the giggles and then they were just like, no. Let's keep going.
We can capitalize on this.
Right.
I don't know.
This story, I'm going to go with bunk.
Could have happened. Could have been fine.
Could have been fine.
I mean, like we said, But the only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man.
Now, having grown up in the church, as it were, I think everyone who grows up in a religious environment knows that it's the kids, it's the preacher's kids that go buck wild.
Simpsons did it.
Yep.
So yeah, there's that one. You can read up about it on the interweb. There's plenty of stuff on it. You can decide for yourself.
I've got a chilling tale for you, Mr. Flora.
Do you?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
This is about Jim and his buddy John, because we're not using their real names to protect their identities. And this happened in the early 1970s.
It's about Jimmy John's?
It's about the foundation of a sandwich empire. So they went on a hunting trip to Tennessee, and they're from Pennsylvania, but they drove to Tennessee to go hunting. After a week, they decided, let's head on back home. And where they were hunting was somewhat remote, so there's a long dirt road. And
it's a good thing they weren't hunting in like a city or anything.
Right.
Weird.
We're going hunting. Where are you going? Nashville. We're going to bag us one of them guitar folk.
I'm going to look for a cougar.
First, I'm going to watch them tape an episode of Hee Haw. This is the 70s. So they're driving, and they've been driving for a while. And again, you get this moment where things start to feel somewhat different or weird.
That comes up.
And they describe the fog. They look in the rearview mirror. There's fog behind them, but not in front of them. And it's just obscuring everything. It's just like there's nothing behind them. The driver's like, "Hey, John, do you notice anything?" He's like, "Yeah, this fog it's kind of all over the place behind us, but we're not driving through it. It's just behind us."
Yeah, this fog. Jimmy, it's on our tail. What are we doing?
Jimmy, I'm so glad you said something. I was over here shitting my pants thinking, I don't know, maybe I've got hunter's madness.
I mean, we need to get out farther from the city.
After all these days, you would think I'd learn I can be emotionally honest with you.
We haven't learned anything, Jimmy. Anything.
Stop the car. We deserve what the fog's bringing.
No, keep going. Don't stop with this fog.
Oh, we're making this story so much better than it's going to end up. Our version,
Yes.
so much better.
Keep killing yourself.
Yeah, spoiler alert. This story sucks. Okay, so
Back to the terror.
back to the terror. So they notice the fog. They keep going. Then they approach this intersection, and they realize they're right back at the beginning of their trip.
Oh,
They're right back where they started, 2 hours away. Now
that sucks.
Yeah. So they're like, what? How'd we get back here? Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I don't know. They got lost. And this is why I love this story, because it's such a great dumb story. According to the writer of this story, who's protecting their names, not using their real names lest they lose their jobs at truck stops, that they had not driven in a circle, and according to the odometer and the gas gauge, they had only traveled one way, because both of those things will give you directional information.
What?
Yeah, I know.
There is nothing that would tell you would have traveled two ways in a car.
Nope.
Okay, keep going.
That's it.
Fair enough.
I told you that I left the good stories to you, and I just sought out like the really bad ones. And man,
I love it.
Is a great bad story. Like
Let's just go back to Pennsylvania.
John, I got terrible news. I just checked the gas gauge and the odometer. We've been only going but one direction.
What? I swear we went all over the place back there, Jimmy.
Oh man, sounds like their sense of direction's been running on empty.
Yeah!
Oh God, because no more. We have to. We have puns to do. We're burning our puns. Oh,
Yeah, there's apparently Liverpool in England has its fair share of time slips.
I'm so glad you have a story from Liverpool, because I heard it referenced. They kept I found 3 or 4 different places that were like, well, the well-known occurrences of Liverpool.
Yeah, there's a street in Liverpool. I'm not going to regale you with a whole story.
Okay.
There's apparently a street that's famous for people slipping in and out of the past.
There's a lot of bars on that street.
No, like a tailor or something, or some, I don't know, something old timey. Cobbler,
Yeah.
barrel maker. I don't know.
Wheelwright.
Cartwright. Yeah. Yeah. So apparently, a lot of stuff happens in Liverpool.
Yeah. I saw that. I saw that mentioned a bunch.
One story I found was of this couple who were hiking in Haiti, and they had this weird sense come over them, and suddenly they were on like the cobblestone streets of France, of like 18th or 19th century France, and it was enough for them to have to like sit down and like talk about it, sit down on the curb, and they were describing things for each other that they could both see and stuff. And then they noticed that a companion of theirs was up ahead of them and was getting out of sight, so they kind of called out to him, and he came back to them, and suddenly they were back in Haiti, and he had experienced none of this. Yeah. So that was one of the ones that I read about going through space as well as time. Yeah, it's strange. I'll leave us there with the stories, because I want to get into the explanations.
Yeah. Let's get into that side of it.
But I encourage you guys listening to go out and try to find some stories of these that people, mostly a lot of stories on kind of like forums or sites that talk about time slips. They'll have listeners write in and discuss it a little bit. But for the explanations, this section is right up there with none of this stuff.
None of this is legally binding.
Yeah, this is nothing that we came up with or anybody in particular came up with. This is all it's just a big field of theory.
I just got my metaphorical crowbar out to open up the biggest wood-bound cask of conjecture I've got.
Yeah. We'll start out with a boring explanation for this.
Yeah, bore me to tears.
These are all lies.
These are all damn dumb, boring lies.
They're hoaxes. They're just people funning you.
Which I mean, honestly, we could have said that at the beginning of our first episode, and then
that's not why we did this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just throw that out.
Another boring one though. people are just confused or mistaken.
Yeah.
They maybe did take a wrong turn.
Take the tragic tale of Jim and John in a hunting trip gone perilously inconvenient.
Yeah, so maybe they, there are roads out there. I'm from the South.
I checked the headlights. They're still facing forward.
There are roads out there that you're driving on, and you take a soft curve, and what you don't know is that you could have kept going straight.
Right.
But it does, for especially at night, it doesn't really look that way, and you take this soft curve, and all of a sudden you're back in town.
Right. And then you got to reckon what happened.
People are looking at you.
And that town, it's in France. How come everyone goes to France?
I don't know.
Did you notice that?
France is the epicenter of a lot of this crap.
Yeah. No one goes to like Gdansk.
Nope. I will one day.
Yeah. Leningrad. Bora Bora.
So let's get on with some neater explanations here.
Yeah.
One that's not too boring, but still kind of dumb. People are asleep. They just kind of fall asleep, and they experience this in a way. It's almost like a sleepwalking state.
A lucid dream.
Yeah. Let's call it that.
Okay. I mean, I can see that. If you're a British lady, you've been walking for longer than you're used to. You fall into kind of a walking daze.
Yeah. But the thing that doesn't explain is how multiple or groups of people experience that. So what if people actually travel through time?
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the nasty.
Yeah. What if they actually do that? Or like we said, a scene's been imprinted on an area and people are seeing a residual haunting going on. That, as we mentioned, that doesn't really explain the interactions as much. So what if people are suddenly in another time? Let's say they do travel through time. They're suddenly back in the past or something. What would cause that? Could it be electromagnetic energy that maybe is, like you said before, a little pocket, causes a little window to open up where you step through and you don't even know it? This was experimented with by Tesla. And he was, I think, convinced that there may be a way to breach time and or space or warp it to create a doorway using highly charged rotating magnetic fields. Now, my question is, does that mean that these could naturally occur? And are they dangerous, if so?
Well,
because nobody in these stories really had any danger.
No, and I'll say this, like, just before we even get into the conjecture of it, I mean, as a stated fact, time is malleable. It is not a universal constant. It kind of shares a few interesting things, like with light. For example, for all observers, regardless of their individual motion, the speed of light is always the same.
Right.
So if I'm standing still and you're in a car going 88 miles per hour, we will still both observe light as going the same exact speed.
Yeah, that flux capacitor is really starting to hum, by the way.
That's right. But the same thing for time. For each individual observer, time will always pass at the same rate. However, the faster you go, you do experience a time dilation.
Theoretical physics really actually does teach us a lot about what could happen, especially with time.
Yep.
In this, like you said. Now, Einstein described something he called space-time.
Yep.
Which is, according to him, affected by gravity. It can be bent or warped.
You ready for me to drop a nugget on you?
Let's do it.
Using a long equation called Riemann's metric tensor, one can actually calculate the exact amount of space-time curvature within a gravitational field, thus determining the distortion of time within that field. A ba-boom! Yeah! I'm drinking a beer.
Think of it this way: the classic example is you have a big sheet of rubber that's stretched out, and you drop a bowling ball in the middle of it.
Yep.
That rubber represents space-time.
Yep.
And the bowling ball represents the Earth or another huge mass.
Yep. Any center of mass.
And so, if you roll a smaller ball around it, it's going to be affected.
Yep.
By that curvature that happens. Now, I can't get it in my head to make a 3D model of that. The 2D model works great, but I cannot, for the life of me, picture, and probably because I'm stuck here in the drudging third dimension. But I bet Jin could do it.
He's got odometers to help him, so he's got a lot more gear.
Only if you're rolling that ball in one direction, though. So that's what we're dealing with in terms of space-time and gravity and stuff. But another fun thing that he came up with was the faster-than-light travel.
Yep.
Going faster than light, since light speed is a constant to us, going faster than light actually makes the light or the whatever is traveling at the speed of light appear to go backward.
Yeah.
So
to make this kind of simple, imagine you made a phone call to some very distant place. And when I say distant, I mean
Jupiter?
Like very, very far
Kazakhstan.
away. Kazakhstan. If you were able to travel faster than light, you would be able to initiate that phone call and answer it. Simultaneous to you in the present making the phone call, because you have traveled faster, because light is our speed limit for everything.
Right.
And by being able to if you were able to somehow circumvent that, if you were able to go faster than light, you've circumvented our perception of time.
Right.
So you would be simultaneously talking to yourself on the other side in Kazakhstan.
The
Great success.
Hi, buddy. Thanks for calling.
Diva, no!
Hi, everybody. I knew you called before the call you made. Yeah, so I think of it also as if you're shooting a laser from point A to point B, the laser's actually going to show up at point B before you shoot it from point A.
Yep. Although technically, since the laser is light, I mean, that'd be a hell of a trick.
Well, it's a faster than light laser.
So, there you go. FTLL.
Fatal. So, wrap that around your brains. The problem is, it's supposed to take an infinite amount of energy to increase anything that is slower than the speed of light.
Yep.
To get it to go to the speed of light.
Yeah, and that's the classic exchange of E equals mc squared. Mm-hmm. Your energy is equal to your mass times the speed of light squared. As that speed of light squared, half of the equation goes up, E also has to go up to balance it. So as you get closer to the speed of light, eventually it requires an infinite amount of energy to hit what is the ultimate speed limit.
Yeah.
And so that's how that curve just goes exponentially to an asymptote, as they say.
Unless there are particles that always move faster than the speed of light, which, theoretically they have posited.
Well, they claimed it. They claimed that it happened at CERN just last year, but then it turned out they were wrong.
They were dim. Somebody called DVOD on that one.
Yeah, that's right. Those neutrinos, they were behaving.
So anyway, faster than light travel. That's one of the theoretical physics that we'll get into in our podcast about ghosts and Spring Hill Jacks. Let's talk some more about theoretical physics. Gravitational time dilation. This is a 1907 theory by the Einstein. The famous
Albert Einstein.
Which has since been confirmed a number of times. It's a difference of elapsed time between two events from observers of different gravitational masses. Simply put, the more gravity there is, the slower time passes.
Yep. The astronauts from the Apollo mission, they experienced 1.0001 second. They lived that far in the future from us.
Yeah.
Because of their time spent in such a low gravity environment.
They're not as close to the Earth.
Once again, thank you, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
The closer you are to the core of the Earth or the center of the crust, if you're a hollow earther,
near the gigantic grape fields,
the slower time's going to move for you. Which I have to assume, if you were able to stand on the surface of the sun, that's going to be a long day.
Yeah,
right.
You're going to burn.
Well, time's gonna be ticking pretty slow for you.
Yeah. Now, there's a great extreme example of this.
The sun's not extreme enough for you? Thanks.
Well, maybe you should meet my friend, the black hole. It's got chunks of your sun in its stool. Literally, it's devoured.
Thinks your sun is a Stugach.
Say you're on a radio and you plummet in a rocket into a black hole. Now, it will require...
I'm on a radio?
Yeah, you're transmitting.
Oh, okay.
You're transmitting, you're live blogging your descent into the black hole.
OMG, 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 OMG.
Now, granted, it would require a huge amount of decompression technology because your signal will be elongated. Mm-hmm. But you will literally be transmitting your scream for millions of years because your time dilation will be so great as you enter such an extreme well of gravity.
Right.
That you will functionally eternally be screaming on your radio.
So time slows down.
So keep your mouth shut if you're in a rocket. Nobody wants to hear that noise.
No. But if you are able to just skirt outside that event horizon, your friend who is screaming in the black hole, you will age before their eyes, right? Because the time's going more quickly for you.
Unfortunately, you won't because they're on the other side of the event horizon, and so nothing that they can experience will escape that event horizon. They will enter a well of darkness.
All right. Well, but you know
I
what
get
I mean.
you. Yes.
You're gonna.
Were they able to observe you?
Were
somehow?
They able to observe you? If their eyeballs weren't also stretched into spaghetti,
into taffy times.
Anyway, that's gravitational time dilation. How about maybe pockets of these floating around? Something like that?
It'd be a hell of a trick, and I think there'd be a lot of secondary effects, the least of which would be an alteration of time.
Yikes. What about if it's a rift or flaw in the fabric of time, allowing for the travel in between? Supposing parallel universes that exist, kind of like how they give an example of bubbles. Mm-hmm. You know, how bubbles foam up and touch each other, but they're still their own bubble. There's the thought that maybe parallel universes exist like this or like membranes that float parallel to each other and sometimes touch or bleed through one another. So maybe these are glimpses of these other universes that come into being in ours.
Right. And in that theory, it would be not that you traveled back to our past.
Right.
But you actually traveled to a parallel universe that was its age for any number of reasons was offset these 70 or 100 or 200 years. Mm-hmm. So you weren't seeing the Marie Antoinette, you were seeing their Marie Antoinette.
Yeah. You ever watch Fringe?
I don't. I need to. I've been told that by a ton of people. Does that happen in the show?
Yeah, sort of. They play with parallel universe, a parallel universe.
Now I've got a theory for you in the style of the Matrix. If you really want to bake your noodle,
too late, man.
So I read a book by Julian Barbour called "The End of Time," in which it is proposed that there is no such thing as time.
Okay.
That it is just kind of a false construct we've used and incorporated into our models, but it doesn't actually exist. Mm-hmm. And that what we're really measuring is just, it's hard to say this without using time-based wording, but a rate of entropic decay in our portion of the universe.
Okay.
And that this is just how long it takes for things to break down. And it seems somewhat constant, although it's not. And that it can change, the pendulum can swing back and forth, where the rate of entropic decay is actually decreasing, where order is increasing for an amount of, see, again, I'm already saying time again. It's really hard to divorce yourself from the concept of it.
Yeah.
But in a system like that, it would mean, again, almost just what you're saying, like a bubble forms that you can experience things through. Clearly, at no point in this book did they discuss time slips. Because there would just be slips. There ain't no time in this book.
I've heard that time is a human construct or a construct of the mind that's just used to try and make sense of things in a way to measure what's going on around you, which I guess in this case would be the entropic decay. I don't know. The way this country's headed, I don't think order is increasing.
One of the things that I think is really interesting is that, you get one of the fun, features of quantum mechanics is that literally, since things are guided by probability and there are no absolutes, literally anything can happen. It is scientifically plausible that you'll wake up with a rhinoceros in your room.
Yeah,
that never happens, but
there's always a chance.
Yeah, it's down to probability, not possibility.
Yeah,
and this is amazing. One of the fun things about this being a proven fact So take, for example, an electron.
Okay.
Now, that electron is never in one, as far as we can tell, like specifically, we can never know exactly where it is and where it's going at the same time. That's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle says. You can't know the position and the velocity at the same time, because by knowing one, you destroy the other. The better you know a position, the less you know where it's going.
Right.
And the more you know where it's going, the less you know exactly where it is at the moment it's going there. So what you have for an electron is what they call the probability cloud. It's somewhere in this area.
Yeah.
And as you get closer to the center of that cloud, it's more likely, because it's like anything else. It's more probable that it's near the center of its probability cloud, that it's gone less distance towards the outer. And then there's
that's when that happens to me. That center is called my kitchen,
right,
and that cloud is called the smell.
Yeah, but it is true. And even human beings, we have probability clouds. It's really likely at any given moment, if someone observes you, that you'll be closer to your home or your place of work. You know, there are these clouds, and it's very unlikely that you'll be in Anchorage, Alaska, although it's still possible.
Yeah.
And so the same thing for electrons. Now imagine...
Maybe we're electrons.
What?
Maybe they are the nucleus.
Now imagine this. This is where things get really fun.
Too late.
Imagine you are an electron, and that your home is the center.
I'm so negative.
And you're so happy to be negative. Your home is the center of your electron cloud. And imagine there is an infinite wall between you and St. Louis.
I'm so angry. Well, St. Louis?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm all right.
So this wall this wall is impenetrable. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You can't go through it.
Okay. It's like Bill Goldberg.
But it's... Who the is Bill Goldberg?
He was that wrestler that used to spear people. He was a former football player. Just keep going.
Oh, you just Greg Biffled me.
Just keep going.
Okay. So imagine there's this wall. You can't go over it. You can't go through it. You can't go under it. But there still remains the mathematical possibility that someday you'll be in St. Louis. And someday you will be in St. Louis.
Oh, that's true.
When someone observes you, and electrons do this, it's how your cell phone works. It's how integrated circuits work now. That even with an impermeable barrier to an electron, it will statistically, to the exact same amount, find itself on the other side of that barrier. And how that happens?
Spooky
science.
Spooky science.
Yeah. And so there's these kind of quasi-magical things that happen in very down-to-earth explained physics.
Yeah. I mean, what is magic if not unexplained science?
Right. And so to that degree, why wouldn't there be this, like you said, these bubble, these slight openings that can happen, these things that seem impossible?
Yeah.
Why isn't there a possibility of someone just stepping through and not even being aware of it and finding themselves surrounded by this? And maybe it's highly unstable. And so so suddenly, boom, then it's gone again.
Yep. It doesn't affect the observer, luckily. I've even heard the theory that you can be walking down the street and suddenly in a instant you're walking the other direction. There's like a chance all the time that could happen to you.
Yep.
I forget what it's called. I forget what the theory is or what the phenomenon is. But theoretically, in theoretical physics, there is a chance out there that can happen to you.
Yeah. It's and it is like so.
Physics is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome and terrifying. And it only like when you get, to something as ubiquitous as an electron, where they're moving so much and there's so many of them, that probability shows up where it actually, that weirdly impossible thing will happen at a predictable rate.
Yeah.
When you get to something as organized as a person, you're probably going to be just fine. Just sometimes you could be driving down a country road and regardless of what your odometer might tell you, you turned around, buddy.
I asked the proton if he was sure he didn't kill that guy. He replied, I'm positive. Yeah! Wow! Looking for the
Jesus God. Oh, this is a tough sell for people. Oh yeah, it's just all puns and physics. That's what we did this week. It's just puns and physics.
Hey,
I couldn't be happier.
I'm glad that you sent this in, Bob. Thanks for sending this in. That's time slips. In a very theoretical nutshell. For you.
Man, yeah. So there you go. We gave you what's what and why's that and just a whole bunch of jibble jabble.
Who's Applebee's? Yeah, we don't claim to know anything about these things, and I think most of science out there doesn't. We only have these fun theories to talk about. And hopefully, we talked about them enough for you. But if you're interested, go out there and try to find out for yourself. Don't go looking for them because these things are so random.
Yep,
probably never going to happen to you.
You should just pay attention.
Yeah, just pay attention.
I mean, I've experienced a reverse time slip. Every day I'm at work, it just drags on forever.
Yeah. But I hope we have whetted your appetite for puns because we got a whole lot more we're going to slip into.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. We haven't whetted your appetite. This is like just dessert on an all-you-can-eat pun buffet. Good God.
I'll go first.
Please do.
I've got an event where suddenly you're just outside of London and a giggling Irishman bounces up and smacks you.
I love this already.
It's called the time slap.
Spring Hill Jack slap. Yeah.
You just went through time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I've got one. It's where you are at a international rap competition and you're up on stage and all of a sudden you find yourself throwing down sweet beats and lyrics about how you're rolling with your gentleman in your Model T, and that's it's a rhyme slip where you find yourself rapping anachronistically.
Never happened to Diggy Toots.
Never. No. Diggy Toots, he's all in the present. You're welcome.
I have a gourmet spice merchant.
Oh, God. Oh. Okay. All right.
It's called the time slip. THYME.
Yes.
Slip.
All right. I'm getting out of the phrase time slip.
I am. We need that.
As I always do when I can't come up with a pun, I will come up with a product. And this one is a television show that I will be pitching to, as always, the now defunct UPN. Time is a one-way street. Or is it? Thursdays this fall on UPN. Two men on a journey to right the wrongs of the timeline. Jim and John, time hunters. Bong. Wrong.
Talk, tick, tock.
Hey, y'all, Jim, where are we?
Talk, tick, tock.
Well, I just checked the odometer. It looks like we're in the future of space. Now let's hunt us some time. Two men on a journey to right the wrongs of the timeline and get back to Pennsylvania in time for their shift at the tire factory. Time hunters.
That's like that's taking like Quantum Leap and Samurai Jack, mashing them all together.
That's right. UPN's got some great programming.
R.I.P. UPN.
Well, it's enough about us.
Let's talk about you.
Let's talk about you, and let's talk about you talking about us.
Oh.
Yeah. Sounds like it's about time based on this sound. Listener mail.
Listener mail.
It's only that makes all the boys come to the yard because they don't want our milkshakes. I'm going to start this right off the bat with an ongoing Blurry Photos debate.
Oh, goodness.
It has raged for weeks.
Could only be from one listener.
That's right. When you want a long-running debate about a terrifying subject, you go to one Mr. Martin R., who still wants to discuss the Shirimi.
Okay.
And I put this out there, and we've got some other input on this that is probably better than Martin's.
Oh, Martin, you're really staying on the butt thing a lot.
Oh, man. People are going to think you're weird.
Really hitting that butt hard.
I don't. Oh.
You're
yeah, really. Get out of that
really
butt.
Hard on the butt last night.
You're in a butt rut,
you
dude.
That's it. That's the one.
Nailed it. I put out a challenge to our listeners of just name something that would be improved if you put an eyeball on it. You'd be like, oh yeah, that is better with an eyeball on it. Mm-hmm. And Martin, you bastard, you tried to lawyer me on this, and I'm not falling for it because he gave me a succinct list of things that would be improved with an eyeball. For example, he says almost any animal species with less successful light-sensing organs than a human would be really happy to see that and thus hunt or flee better.
So like a cavefish?
Yeah, like or
add an eye to a cavefish? Is that what you...
Yeah, or like to one of those naked mole rats that are blind, add a giant human eye to those.
Or a bat?
Yeah, anything that can't see as well. But that's not the point. Nah, that's not the point. How disturbing would just a normal bat be with a human-sized eye?
Exactly.
Where would you put the eye? It would be too heavy to fly at that
on
point.
Its tummy.
Not improved. He also adds eyeball soup, by definition, would be improved by adding eyeballs. False.
Oh.
False.
Goodness, I think you're confusing eyeballs with paprika.
Right. Also, I think all of our listeners right now are going, wait a minute. What about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
Right.
It's a perfect example.
Dave.
Because...
Give me your hat.
No.
Because I'm going to puke in it.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, because the eyeball soup was put in there to just horrify and disgust. Mm-hmm. The less eyeballs in eyeball soup, the better the soup gets.
Chilled a monkey brain.
And make that little sound when the top of the head comes off.
Yep.
Now this one's on the fence, but I'm still not giving him points because now I've got a grudge about it.
Oh,
Flora, this is right up your alley. The Beholder from Dungeons and Dragons.
True
floating head with a bunch of eyeballs on stalks. Now,
well, it's basically a floating eyeball with more smaller
ancillary eyeballs
stalks on it.
He says since each eyeball possesses a new innate magical ability, that would be improved by the addition of an eyeball.
Yep.
So
correct.
Yeah, I guess, but that doesn't exist. So
right.
So wash.
Well,
I'm calling it a draw on that one.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, but you're not right.
I don't know. Didn't you ever see Big Trouble in Little China?
Yeah.
Kind of had a beholder in there, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I also saw Lord of the Rings. That had a big eyeball in it.
Okay.
Wow, I can't believe I said that. And then it was like, wow, that meshed together.
Mordor.
Mordor. Also, now this is where he just gets real bebop and word jazz on it.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Sorry, man. I'm on a nostalgia train right
now. No doubt. There's some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles there. If in the vastness of space, Martin writes, we find any floating asteroids have an eyeball that would turn that inert, lifeless rock into a new and wholly miraculous species of life that would upend both religion and science for all time. Come on,
Jean-Luc Picard.
Jeez,
cut the shit, Geordi.
No doubt.
No, Mr. Worf.
Oh man,
what are you gonna?
Louise, pass the peas.
What are you gonna do? Break the Prime Directive? Come on, man.
Yeah, even that's an abomination, and they would just vaporize it.
Yeah, good luck probing that too.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't even know where to shove the probe. Moving on, Flora, why don't you bring this one home because
thanks Martin for writing in because we like discussing stuff.
We do, even though I took a pretty adversarial stance to you there, Mr. Martin R, because I feel like you were deliberately dodging the point.
I love it though. It's great.
Yeah.
It's still fun to talk about. But speaking of that, we got another example of what might benefit from adding an eye to it. Uh-huh. Listener Jeff says, if I see a Cyclops with an extra eye, I'd be more at ease.
He did it.
That's it, man.
He did it. That wins.
True story right
there.
Now,
I granted, yes, Cyclops is no more real than the Beholder was. But the Cyclops is happier, and I'm happier.
Right.
In the Beholder scenario, I was just going to get my ass kicked harder, so I still couldn't say that I would be happier to see a Beholder with another eye.
Right.
But a Cyclops, everyone's happy when you give a Cyclops an extra eye.
Yeah.
Even though I guess technically one would still be giant and central, and the other one would be like normal size and off center.
Like a bleeding Picasso.
They would get real cubist or like kind of like sloth a little bit. Baby Ruth. Hey, you guys. But the moral of the story is, Jeff, you did it.
Well played, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Our good friend.
Man, Martin's going to be so pissed that we called someone else the winner on that one.
Thanks for playing along, though, Martin.
Yeah, please continue to. I enjoy these little chess matches.
Friend of the podcast, Mel Evans, writes in about our Merlin episode. She says, dudes, that's us. I'd like to point out that in pop culture wizard news, there are many wizards in the work of Stephen King, including Martin Broadcloak, Rhea of the Coos, Flag Magician, and possibly Randall Flagg. Also, the Meyer Wizard. Is that their mascot? Meyer is in the store? Is that what she's talking about? Mel, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
But you know what? Thank you, Mel, for giving us a list of wizards.
Are these? I'm going to ask you, Mel. Are these from what is it? The Dark Tower? The Dark Tower? Is that? Does that have wizards in it?
I don't know.
It has a gunslinger, right?
Yeah.
I wish I had read that.
The last Stephen King book I read was Dolores Claiborne, and that was a long time ago, and that was such an awful book that I never went back.
Yikes.
Now, but I will say this, now, Mel Evans, I have a gift for you.
Oh, geez.
Did you know, Mel Evans, that it is possible for you to write your first name in looping cursive and have it look identical if you turn it upside down?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Goodness,
your name
kind of is, huh?
looks your first name looks identical if read from the top or the bottom.
What's the term for that? There's a term.
There is a term. I'm sure it's a great word, but I don't know it.
Dan Brown knows it. Mel, that's great. Thanks for showing us up on magician knowledge. Also, Mel, can you clarify Meyer Wizard?
And to our other listeners, if you'd like to clarify what an awesome effing podcast sounds like, how about you listen to An Hour with Your Ex? And that will clarify a lot of things. Because you're probably right now like, Jesus, these guys are jokers. I wish I could listen to some professionally well-made podcasts that's relatable. I could tell someone at work about this and not get the weird eye. You want to listen to An Hour with Your Ex with Mark Coulomb and the very talented Mel Evans. Which isn't to say Mark isn't talented, but I've never met him. And I have met Mel, and she's very talented. Also, you guys, hell of a baker.
You guys won't be able to tell if we're talented enough until you meet us.
Yep, that's the only way to know.
Anyway,
I also have highest of fives and secret handshakes to Thunderstorm, which is pretty sweet as an internet handle goes.
You deserve one of these, Thundersound.
You do deserve that. Yeah. Just know that every single time you hear that in a podcast, that's a high five directly to you. Thank you for listening, and we think you're cool too.
Awesome. Thanks for the feedback. If you guys would like to write in with and debate with us about anything or tell us what jackasses we are, we'd love it. blurryphotos.org. There's a contact sheet on there.
We'd love it in the academic sense, but we would probably get our feelings hurt if you were really brutal about it.
Very true. We're still little delicate flowers underneath. We come across as hard tickets, but underneath
we're just a couple of dainty hates. Now, before we wrap this little dog and pony freak show up, we got to give you guys a heads up for the month of May.
Uh-oh.
It's going to be pretty great.
What's going on in May?
I hope you guys like pageantry. And by pageantry, I just mean a pageant. Because the esteemed gentlemen of Blurry Photos, fine connoisseurs of the unknown, learned gourmands, we're holding the first annual 2013 Miss Cryptid pageant. There she is, her horns and flame breath. She scared some villagers and may not exist. That's a great song. We're dedicating the month of May to the Miss Cryptid pageant.
That's right.
Where each week in the month of May, we will be discussing the cryptids. We love cryptids.
Right.
But there's so few that have enough information to really give them...
Fill out a whole...
Right. So we're going to take
form.
all the fun cryptids that don't really ever get their time in the sun. We're going to discuss them, and we're going to need your help with this. We want you to write us back each week. Who is the cryptid you like the most?
Yeah.
And then we're going to use this to crown the Miss Cryptid 2013.
That's right. I'm going to try to get a form on the site that's easy for you guys to fill out, where you just vote.
Yeah.
Who'd you like the best? We're going to probably shoot for doing about 4 cryptids per episode, and then you guys tell us which one you liked the best from each.
And we'll roll them forward. It's kind of a weird bracketing kind of thing.
Have like a final 4 of cryptids.
That's right. And then we're going to crown a winner.
Should be a good time. We're gonna cover a lot of ground.
Remember how much fun we had in Bunyip Town?
Yeah.
I mean, in technically, Spring Hill Jack cryptid.
Yeah, well, yeah. And we're going to go even, I would say, level below that in terms of celebrity.
Oh, yeah.
Of cryptids.
Yeah, these are the cryptids that no one's heard of.
Yeah, these are
hipster cryptids.
Hipstids.
Oh, my God. You can get into these guys and then be like, oh, yeah, you've probably never heard of El Nostrinando.
You know, the nose monster of Chile.
That's right. Oh, man, we just created an awesome cryptid or a lucha libre wrestler.
But we are going to have a trophy.
Yep, that's right. It's the Golden Goatman.
The Golden Goatman. Whoever comes out on top of this pile of cryptids wins a Golden Goatman.
We're going to write that cryptid's name on a piece of really nice tape and stick it to the Golden Goatman. But like a really nice tape, like gaffing tape. That shit's expensive.
So I hope that gets your appetite brewing.
I hope we whet your whistle.
The whole month, I mean, it's all going to be cryptids, so don't get bummed out, by lack of variety. But these cryptids are going to be variety enough for you.
Oh, man. They're going to blow your mind.
They're all going to be fun, and you're going to get 4 different ones each episode. So
not to mention, I'm not promising this, but I just knowing how we operate. Probably a different version of the Miss Cryptid song every week.
Yep, now. We will now. So look forward to that coming up in the month of May. And check out blurryphotos.org for all that information. And you can go there and write to us.
Yeah.
Via the contact sheet. I'll put that survey up there real up front so you don't have to search for that.
You can Twitter vote at us.
Twitter, blurry_photos.
You can Facebook vote us.
Just go to our homepage and follow the chiclet to that, because I don't want to give you that. There's a lot of numbers to that address.
Yeah, just click.
Just click.
Click and vote.
Find us on there. And if you don't like us on Facebook yet, go ahead and like us.
Yeah, do it.
Gosh, it takes 2 seconds.
And you know what? You're going to feel so good when you do.
And we're going to feel so good when
and then
you
your friends going to be like, hey, I saw that you like something and it seems really cool and you got to it first, so my esteem for you has improved. That's what happens.
Win-win-win, you guys.
That's the drug that the hipsters are hooked on.
Also, we're on iTunes.
Oh, so thoroughly.
You may be listening to us.
You can't vote on iTunes, but you can give us a review.
Yeah. And now we're on StumbleUpon.
Mm-hmm.
You can figure out how to use that and then give us a thumbs up.
Maybe you can vote. We don't have a f***ing clue what happens on StumbleUpon. We don't know what you do with it, how you do it. Is it you order hot dogs from there?
I don't know.
If you
does it hurt?
Yeah.
If you're stumbling?
I don't know.
So we're also on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can subscribe to us on there.
And feel free to drink along with us with your carefully purchased online liquor orders.
That's right, through our affiliate links on the site to a craft beer company or the Gold Medal Wine Club.
One of our listeners lives in kind of No Funsville, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And he's really excited because he's actually using our links to order sake, which he has a really hard time getting where he lives.
Nice.
Yeah, so score.
And he can enjoy that for our yokai episode.
Oh, exactly. Kampai.
So, great, you guys. Thanks for listening. For this episode of Blurry Photos, I am David, the positive electron Flora. Yeah, I'm negative. Woo!
And I'm David, time, space, curvature, Stecco. Ooh,
come on, man.
That's a sweet curve.
Oh, I thought that was a knock on your self-esteem.
No way. Man, I'm a sweet, curvy piece of meat, and all the ladies fall into my gravity well. And I'm waiting at the bottom, all like, kiss it times.
Bye.